As part of etec565, one of our tasks was to create a module in Moodle which would engage our learners. As you can see here, I've sort of expanded this from a single course and brought it into our entire school. And as well as being a single module, I've created entire courses. I will, however, show you what the Biology 11 unit on genetics and evolution looked like, as I've actually used this with my classroom. The intro screenshot was a little bit different. There's a splash page where you were able to move around, and I decided not to actually include that in this active version, as it was occasionally a little bit confusing. But it was still an interesting challenge having to make the various buttons and create the content. So here's my Biology 11 course. I'm going to select this one here, and we'll open up Biology 11. So in this section, I sort of added a few other details that I wouldn't necessarily have had in the original model, in terms of course outline. Here I've included a blog where I put some of the notes that I create on the iPad and sort of what I'd like for lab formats. If we skip down to the original component that I had built for the students, it was these two here, evolutionary theory and genetics and inheritance. We had the option to create our Moodle units in a number of different tools. We could have used the WYSIWYG editor that was provided in Moodle framework itself, or build it externally. I opted to build it in Dreamweaver, as I thought it'd be good to learn these skill sets, although it did result in a lot of long hours and nights as I tried to learn or relearn HTML. But I'm finding it's paying off now as I do my own ePortfolio and HTML from scratch as well. So in here, I tried to include a number of different components. Our evolution module is the notes component and links that tell the students where to go, what sections to participate in activities, and the same down here with the genetics module. I tried to include a game activity, so this one will link the students to an activity called Pandemic, where we're looking at evolutionary models and traits as an introductory role to using and learning about it. And then we had several different discussion forums here where the students were supposed to engage with one another and participate. That way they could submit assignments online. In the original tool, we were supposed to have different times when things would open and close. This could be achieved both through manually setting the date and by making tools visible or not. And then one of the better parts was the sort of asynchronous property of doing different quizzes and tasks that the learners could go home, maybe on their own time, take part, do a reading, and then complete a quiz. A little bit different than they might on the classic pen and paper where they're stuck in the classroom under the guise of the teacher. This does require sort of a shift in what learning looks like, and trying to create questions that the students had to think a little bit more, or even just simply to revise or review the content that they were doing. So the assessment of the quizzes themselves have changed to reflect their varying role. So here I'll click on evolution module so you can sort of see what it's going to look like. And here's our notes. Again, different tabs and sections where students could jump to. Each section has a task. Sometimes there'd be a video they had to watch, and then they contribute to a different forum. They were able to move back and forth through different things by the tabs, and then move back and forth. They still stayed here. Overall, I was pretty happy with how this actually worked out when I built it initially. But as I've tried it in the classroom, I just took it this year and implemented it. There were definitely some things that needed tweaking, and then I'll have to go back and rework some things for next year in terms of, well, the content. I'm using different textbooks, so some of that doesn't match. I think this is still a little bit too teacher-centric and could still even shift more towards the students and creating more problem-based content and going that way. The genetics module looks very similar. Again, we have our components, who, where, when, helping students participate in different activities, new research giving some background in history, participating in a discussion, and then a lab activity. Students do really like the lab activities, and I found it was very helpful for them to be able to read and prepare some ideas before coming into the classroom. The use of the discussion forums didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked, and in hindsight, based on some of the works of collaborative group online learning, some tweaks again I'll make there. But for the first time that we ever tried this, I've been pretty happy with how it actually turned out, even given all the little snags that have happened. We can see dog called spot quiz. And it says I've closed right now. I can see the attempts of the students and find out how they actually did, which was nice. So we can go through. I shouldn't be showing that. I'll have to block those out later. And different scores. So I can show you, oh yeah, they all did really well in this, and they didn't do so well there. So if we jump back to Biology 11 again. And then you can see that I've sort of moved beyond just the basic units and expanded this to be also for microbiology, invertebrates, which is currently under construction. The students have a project here. So Moodle does actually prove to be quite a useful tool.